this slowing down my brain help, dear?
No.
I'm Austin's Animals, collecting all things furry, and today we're gonna go back in time to the era of glam rock. Ziggy Stardust rocked the airwaves, and adult animated movies were actually making money. Loads of money. Ralph Bakshi's Fritz the Cat was a commercial success. That sparked a loyal fan following that interestingly enough would lead to the first furry parties, which would in turn become the furry community. Yeah, the legend goes that screenings of Fritz the Cat at sci-fi conventions led to large furry parties and gatherings. How about that? In the wake of that movie's success came a slew of adult animated films with dark themes, some of which had cartoon animals in them. Rock and Roll may have been one of the most creative from this experimental era of animation, even though it was a box office bomb and kind of came a little later than the trend. It had a lot of production trouble and released in the early 1980s. It tells the story of a Bowie-like rock star trying to destroy the world and a small dive bar band trying to stop him. It's a really underrated cool film that just shipped at the wrong time. Again, it was a massive box office bomb. There's lots of great documentaries on the film. If you want something like really going into the film's troubled production, then watch Sable Sparks' video. It's really good. It's also freeware. You can watch the movie for free on YouTube. Yeah, the whole movie. So if you haven't watched it, you should just pause this video, watch the movie, and in an hour and 10 minutes, your entire life will be changed. You will love it. I'm not going to review the movie today, other than I absolutely unabashedly love the film, and I'm not going to play any of its awesome, catchy soundtrack out of fear of getting copyright claimed. You can just imagine how cool the music is by Deborah Harry, the lead singer of Blondie, Lou Reed, Cheap Trick, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Like, come on, this movie had the superstars of the 1970s. It is just so great. Unfortunately, there is nothing to collect from this movie. The studio had cold feet. They thought it wasn't raunchy enough for adults to compete with heavy metal, and it was too dark for children. So test audiences didn't like it, the studio didn't like it, and the movie just lay in obscure ruin. Years later, it was dug up on videotapes, and it was played at furry conventions where it would garner finally its cult following, because there is an audience for cool, dark, anthropomorphic storytelling with sci-fi and fantasy themes, and that's the furry community. This movie is very popular with the furries, though, again, there's nothing really to collect. You could get the Laserdisc, the VHS tape, you could get the DVD collector release by Shout Factory. This is honestly a really cool release, and even comes with some ephemera inspired by the movie, but it's been long discontinued, and it's going to run you a couple $100 these days. However, back to the movie's release, there was one sole piece of merchandise. Yes, one rock and roll thing you could buy, and that was the official comic book by Marvel Comics. This is a one-shot comic issue. It's a one and done, and it doesn't feature any new artwork. It is just stills from the movie made into a comic book. And it does a pretty good job. If you've ever played an arcade game in the 80s, and then went home and played like the crappy home version of that arcade game, that's kind of like what the Rock and Roll comic book is. It's like a port of the movie to a bad video game console. It's not animated, so you can't have this fluid, smooth animation of the movie, but you can have beautiful stills that capture the film's lovely artwork and gorgeous style. If you were expecting a cash-in comic book tie-in, you are wrong. This is a port of the movie with its complete vision intact. The book has a lot of style to it. It has a lot of substance. And the people that were in charge of editing this book paid close attention to capture the movie's unique visual tone. Check out this spread page of when Mock's face is on the butterfly, or even when you open the book. They could have left these pages simply black, but they chose to do the city skyline seen in the film's opening, along with its narration that reads, "The war is over. The only survivors were street animals."
Dogs, cats, and rats. From them, a new race of mutants evolved. That was a long time ago.
You can just hear the movie in these pages.
Okay, now join me, Mylar, in welcoming tonight's last act.
I'm Mock. Anyone want a beer?
Now I have revealed exactly why I'm here. I'll be your angel if you want to see how perfect sharing love with an angel can be.
What I'm saying is that while I know the movie well, I think if a stranger read this comic book without having seen the movie, they would still get the movie. And that is pretty damn impressive for a film that sells itself entirely on music and sound to convey itself successfully through comic book form, which you would read in silence. I mean, I guess nowadays you could look up the soundtrack and listen to it while you read it, but you can just watch the movie for free online. I'm saying back in the 1980s, I'm sure a lot of kids had this comic book, and heck, didn't even know it had a movie. Which I would say if it was just a flat adaptation of the movie, but there's a second half of this book I have not talked about, and that's the making of rock and roll. There is a making of portion at the end that contains an exhaustive look at the movie's production. Seriously, this is like a coffee table book. There's so much concept artwork and insight into the movie's troubled production that I'm shocked was included in this. It's really interesting, and the artwork is beyond gorgeous and makes this a must-buy purchase if you're a fan of the movie. There's even information about all the musicians that worked on it, why they chose the characters they went with, and how they recorded them. Did you know Mock is voiced by Lou Reed and Iggy Pop? Yeah, two rock and roll legends voicing one character that's emulating David Bowie. How about that? So, lots of great stuff in this making of feature, and this makes the book a clear winner. It even highlights all the animators, such as this guy that animated Mock. And God bless him, because I love Mock. Thank you for animating this. Thank you to the animators for making this. I'm so happy they kind of got their due and credit in this book, because you didn't see stuff like this back then. Animation was such a niche. It's just a cool love letter. The rock and roll comic book is a must-have for any fan of the movie. And if you're not a fan of the movie yet, I'm going to make you a fan, because you got to watch it. It is just awesome. So I'm just going to share now some of my favorite stills from the comic book. I'm not going to spoil the whole thing. The movie's online for free. I'm not going to post the whole book, as it's honestly a pretty long comic book adaptation. Here are just some of my favorite scenes that were adapted in comic book form.